Hey guys, so this is going to be the first video on Charlotte Perkins Gilman. She was obviously a female sociologist and fiction writer and sort of just generally brilliant person who had a really productive life in all kinds of different genres. But she wasn't such a dabbler that she didn't devote herself very intentionally to sociology. She wrote multiple books that were designed to be sociology books. It wasn't like it was all just embedded in her fiction, although she wrote a ton of fiction as well. Like Du Bois, she's going to be focusing on the experience of society for non-white males. She's obviously a woman, as a source of information about society. We talked about this with Du Bois. White men accounted for, or account right now for, less than half, about 30% of the American population, which means if we're basing, and it is the 30% that doesn't face racial discrimination or gender discrimination. So what we're basing a lot of our sociological theory on, or our understanding of society, if we are mainly listening to white male sociologists, we're getting a theory that is based on the experience of a select few people who don't have some of the crucial experiences that most people in society have, which is being discriminated against. So Gilman's purpose, her whole thing is to say, okay, there are things that are taken for granted in society, and I want to make them problematic. I want to show that these things that we kind of just consider to be natural and normal are actually produced by specific choices, and they're a major problem for all people in society, not just for women. So what she does is, and we're going to see this over the course of the next few lectures, she creates a systematic sociological theory that explains human life as characterized by two main things. The first of them, well, actually, they're both up here. Sociality, which is, as far as I can tell, that's her term. What it means is sociality, the capacity to realize oneself and joy by working together. So you've got several different things coming together. You've got this idea of self-fulfillment. You've got the experience just of not just self-fulfillment, but of a really positive emotion in joy, but you also have it in the context of working together. She's kind of reminds me a little bit of Zimmel there, in the sense that human individuals are super important, but they're not primary. Relationships are primary. Human life is characterized by a fundamental sociality. That is like a basic thing that she suggests is part of our species. We interact and work together, and in the process of that, we experience joy and we realize ourselves. We have self-fulfilling lives. But while that is fundamental, there is also suffering, and she says the suffering is unnecessary. The suffering is the result of people creating social circumstances that are not necessary and that are harmful to people. So what she's going to do is say, this is sort of biological. That's our species. This is sociological. Society is set up in a way that produces this. At the heart of it, at the heart of her sociology, is going to be the idea of, sorry, let me scroll down, the idea of gender. And in the same way that I was super impressed with Du Bois and his centering of the veil, saying this veil is a concept that is fundamental to our understanding. It's not tucked away as part of the collective consciousness. It's something fundamental. She's going to say the same thing about gender. Now, most of us, if you've been through an intro course, almost certainly you've heard the term patriarchy. And the idea of patriarchy is a society that is ordered and organized in a way that favors men, that privileges men, their experiences, and their interests. What she's going to say, I'm going to use the term patriarchy, she called it an androcentric culture. I'm going to try to use those two terms interchangeably because as far as I can tell, they mean the same thing. But what's interesting about Gilman is she is saying, before we get to the point of having patriarchy, before we get to the point of having an androcentric culture, gender is there. Gender is foundational in the same way that the veil is foundational for Du Bois, and then society gets built on top of that, which is an interesting thing to think about. Most of the way that I've learned gender, it is part of the culture, and it obviously is very influential in both male and female lives. But she's saying that's not the way to think about it. It comes first, and then culture is built on the basis of gender, which is going to be an interesting thing for us to explore. That's it for introducing her. I'll see you in the next video where we're going to talk about, the next video is going to be about her model of collective life. So I was about to start introducing it, but I'll just do it in the next video. I'll see you then.